So, I'll admit, I've been kind of drinking the Gatorade when it comes to focusing on very particular things in regards to the upcoming 2024 NHL Entry Draft. Now, we've been talking a lot about Montreal stuff, and because Montreal fans are pretty prevalent on this YouTube channel, I would think some of y'all will tune into this video because it kind of relates to your team, but also because we may have some other fans from other fan bases right here, I wanted to say this at the beginning of the video, that on Friday we will be doing ourselves a stream for day one of the 2024 NHL Draft. We've been doing the yearly streams for the draft. I'm never consistent with the playoffs and the finals, but the draft we usually do consistently on, so we'll be okay with this, and this will be a fun time for all. We'll do videos on day two. I'm not going to stream for the entire day two because, yeah, that's going to be 8 hours long. We're not going to try that because I can't be on YouTuber mode for 8 hours straight in one video, but 4-hour streams for the one day in the draft? Yeah, that's fine. We've done that before. It's great. So, join me and the hundreds of others that will be tuning in on our YouTube channel to see whether or not this piece of news that we'll be talking about in this video actually comes true, and what else we could see out of the other 31 NHL draft picks that we will have in the first round of 2024 selection. So, let's go out there and talk about the top of the draft. For the most part, most of our videos have been focused around that Montreal number 5 spot. We've been talking about Catton Lindstrom, we've been talking about Demidov, we've been talking about other defensemen, and guys that might be rotating in and around that spot of the draft. But of course, if you're a fan of any of these other teams, I mean, the Kraken have 8th overall, they could get a pretty good player. Ottawa, 7th overall, the Utah Hockey Club, y'all's first ever official NHL draft pick that is not an Arizona Coyotes pick. That'd be great to see. But when it comes to the very, very pinnacle, tippy top of the draft, there is one guy that we know is going to go first overall. Macklin Celebrini will go to San Jose. It's not even a question. The question is, what happens at number 2? You see, for Montreal Canadiens fans, I'd say that the majority of fans are divided between two guys. You've got Catton Lindstrom, the big WHL power forward sniper who had an injury this previous season, but who still projects very well and who has said amazing things about the Montreal Canadiens. And you also have yourselves Ivan Demidov, the Russian phenom, absolutely phenomenal playmaker, arguably the most creative and offensively gifted player in this entire draft. Yes, I am saying that he could very well rival the offensive output of a Macklin Celebrini. Demidov, though, is a winger. He's not as safe, I guess you could say. He's a lot more aggressive and assertive offensively. But either way, Demidov is a guy whose name has been linked to Montreal as potentially a second option behind Catton Lindstrom. It seems like these are their two guys, and we'll be paying attention as to what happens in the draft, right? But the thing is, when it comes to Demidov, he's so good, and he was so highly touted for a good chunk of the year, that with some rankings having him as high as number 2 overall already, the question then becomes, where do the Chicago Blackhawks go? Because you're seeing the lists now, you're seeing mock drafts being made, you're seeing people projecting, hey, Ivan Demidov is going to go over to Chicago at number 2. He has the opportunity to do that. Matvei Michkov just went over to Philadelphia, so the Russian factor, nobody's scared of that anymore. It's not really a thing, right? So Connor Bedard, Ivan Demidov, these guys are going to be fantastic together, and it's going to be an amazing pairing because they're going to draft him 2nd overall, right? Well, let's debate that, because if you go over to one of the latest posts made on Twitter, this was posted the other day by JP. It cites a Hockey News mock draft that has Chicago taking Ivan Demidov in the number 2 overall spot. Okay, that's fine. You can screenshot articles, you can post articles on Twitter, that's totally okay. But one of the replies from this tweet is by Scott Powers, who is a beat reporter for the Chicago Blackhawks. He does stuff for The Athletic. He primarily does Hawks-related stuff. And he tweeted out in response to the Ivan Demidov selection, just so you're prepared, I'll be surprised if the Blackhawks do not take Levshunov. This tweet was then tweeted out by Marc-Olivier Bourdin. A beat writer from Chicago is convinced that the Blackhawks will select Artyom Levshunov at the 2nd overall spot. It gives Montreal Canadiens fans even more hope that Ivan Demidov will be available at number 5 for the Habs. Now, here's the thing. We did make a Why I Want video about Artyom Levshunov if you wanted to go out there and check this out yourself. We brought up the comparison as to whether or not he could be some sort of a Dion Phaneuf-like defenseman. He's big, he can move, he can produce some points, and he can absolutely pulverize guys. If he pans out, he could be a true number one defenseman. Sort of in that physical, no-nonsense, everything works kind of role. His skating is great, his hockey sense, his IQ, it's all up there. But the problem is, Artyom Levshunov is not Ivan Demidov. He's not a high-scoring, flashy, number one left wing to be. Instead, he was a point-per-game freshman with the Michigan State University Spartans in the NCAA, which is great, but is this the kind of guy that you want to be taking over somebody like an Ivan Demidov or whomever else? Because after Scott Powers tweeted out that Levshunov was probably going to be the guy for Chicago at number 2, you had a lot of people freaking out, a lot of people going out there and saying, okay, wait, no, we'd rather have Bedard and Demidov. Maybe Levshunov becomes the next Victor Hedman or something, or the next Charlie McAvoy, but why take him at number 2 when there's a really talented player that could set up Bedard's long-term future right there? And it got so bad that you even had some Montreal Canadiens fans going out there and defending this idea. The Habitant went out there and tweeted this, which I thought was so interesting because, of course, the Habitant is Montreal Canadiens based. And I get it, you can say that maybe this tweet is sort of priming Blackhawks fans to the idea that says, hey, you should be okay with Levshunov because if you take him, Demidov slips one more spot further and he becomes a lot more available to us at number 5. Because wherever the Anaheim Ducks and the Columbus Blue Jackets go, that's also going to be in the question as well. But either way, this is what the Habitant said about Levshunov. Blackhawks fans having a hissy fit over Levshunov being the likely pick at number 2 is so strange. This is a legitimate foundational right-handed defenseman entering a team with a genuinely garbage D-core. I get that each fan base puts on those rose-tinted glasses when assessing their prospects, but Chicago's defense really is not a strong point at all. Additionally, defensemen take slightly longer to develop than forwards, and Chicago will still be really bad for the foreseeable future, whether or not they want to be. It's difficult to turn the corner, and it'll take some time. They'll get more high-end forwards up front in the next 2 drafts, plus trades and free agency. There's also some weird idea that Demidov is somehow this generational caliber can't-miss player. None of the fans that are this pissed off at Levshunov being a possibility have watched either for an extended periods of time, outside of highlights, which is always biased towards flashy forwards, especially in lesser leagues. All I have to say about this is calm down. Levshunov, if he ends up being the pick, will be one of the pillars of that team in the future as they hunt for a cup. You need those types of players, regardless of how low you think you are on the kid. If Montreal got him at 5, I'd be over the moon. And that's from a fan of a team where the organizational strength is already on defense with a lack of talent up front. Too long didn't read, Levshunov is amazing and being upset over him is silly. And then one of the top comments says, holy yapfest, you're not getting Demidov, bruh. I want Lindstrom anyways, is the reply. So, there you go. Some people are going out there and saying, wait a minute, like, there may be some sort of a double-sided, duplicitous part about this tweet here, but either way, Artyom Levshunov being the projected second overall pick because it's Chicago and not the second-ranked prospect is an interesting update to this draft, because all of a sudden, if you go Celebrini 1, Levshunov 2, if you confirm these 2 picks, all of a sudden, for Montreal, it becomes a lot easier to say, okay, you've got 3 names available, one of them will be on the board. Demidov, you want him? He may be available. Caden Lindstrom, you want him? He may be available. And then the other name was Zeev. So, if you go Celebrini, Levshunov, then that means that one of the Canadiens' 3 targets would be available at number 5, which works out perfectly if you talk about the mathematics. So, let me know your thoughts in the comment section below if you're a Canadiens fan, a Blue Jackets fan, or an Anaheim Ducks fan. How do you feel about the idea of Chicago being dead set on Artyom Levshunov at 2nd overall? Obviously, things can change. We're just going off the word of Scott Powers, who happens to be a Chicago beat reporter, but how do you feel about this pick potentially being the favorite, and how does this shape the way you see the rest of the draft playing out? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section below. I hope you enjoyed this video. And bye.